Welcome to the 97 Republic YouTube channel, where I react to UFC news and live events. So I kindly ask that you hit the like button and the subscribe button, as that will really help this channel grow. And to ensure that you don't skip a beat, feel free to click the notification bell. That way you can guarantee that you don't miss any of the action. I really hope you enjoy this. A recap of UFC 313, where we saw Alex Pereira lose his belt, lose for the very first time at light heavyweight against Magomed Ankalaev. Now the question is it possible to be an Alex Pereira fan like myself and still give credit to Magomed Ankalaev? And I'd suggest that the answer is yes. Now it was strange seeing the fight. It was strange seeing how lethargic Alex was with regards to his striking, but we have been coming accustomed to how Alex fights. Where even in the Khalil Roundtree fight, we saw basically the same thing play out in the very first two rounds of the fight. The only difference is Magomed had wrestling in his back pocket, something that he would use to basically ensure and secure the victory, where Khalil didn't. So Alex basically fought the same way against Khalil Roundtree as he did against Magomed Ankalaev. The only difference is Ankalaev initiated in wrestling in the latter rounds of the fight, where obviously Khalil didn't. And that's the problem with the whole game plan, basically, with Alex Pereira going into this fight, is surely he had to know that at some point Magomed would probably initiate in grappling and probably try and take him down. Now, a lot of credit to Alex Pereira, seeing that he was able to avoid getting taken down and was 12 for 12 with regards to takedown defense. With that being said, Magomed still scored with regards to control time. Now, how much validity that should actually hold with regards to scoring is probably a discussion for another time, where I'm somewhat in between two thoughts with regards to how wrestling is scored within the UFC and within mixed martial arts, because a wrestler gets points for control time when he has his opponent pressed against the cage, because obviously due to the wrestler initiating in that exchange, we have that play out. But should the same apply then to the striker for having control time where no wrestling is taking place? Do you understand the reasoning? How much is laying against your opponent against the cage? How much is that warranted? Now, I'm not taking anything away from Magomed Ankalaev, as I previously mentioned. Definitely warranted being victorious, being the champion at this point in his life, where we saw him basically get the rough end of the stick against Jan Blachowicz, where he beat Jan, but the fight was considered to be a majority draw. Didn't get his belt, and basically had to bounce back, had to win, had to face Johnny Walker, had to beat Alexander Rakic, and then basically had his chance to redeem himself, and he did. And on that note, a lot of people saying that this is the worst thing that could happen to the UFC, speaking about how boring Ankalaev is as a fighter. Go watch his fights, where majority of his fights end via stoppage. Devastating stoppage. The fight we had against Prachnio, the fight we had against Dolce Lungi Mbula, the fight he had against Johnny Walker, Anthony Smith, Ian Kutalaba. A lot of ungodly knockouts coming your way. Now, probably what would be next, which I'll probably discuss in a later video, is what would be next for either men. An immediate rematch makes the most sense. However, spoke to a friend about this, where he actually said that he doesn't see Alex. What is it that Alex could do to improve on his performance? Seeing that probably the only thing would be to try and fight on the front foot. Because we saw Alex, whenever he fought on the front foot against Ankalaev, he had the benefit of the striking battle, where he somewhat had the advantage playing out on the feet only when he was on the front foot. Also makes it way more difficult for Ankalaev to actually use his wrestling when he has to fight from the back foot. So that would be massive. But what else could Alex do? Prior to this fight, Alex Pereira was unequivocally the better fighter. But Magomed Ankalaev was the more well-rounded fighter. Where if we took their skill set in a microcosm and we looked at it, we'd probably see that the difference between Alex's striking and Magomed's striking isn't that much. However, the difference between Ankalaev's wrestling, Alex's wrestling, massive discrepancy. So prior to the fight, Alex was better. Ankalaev was more well-rounded. Now, after beating Alex, Ankalaev is better. He's more well-rounded. So what would Alex be able to do to adjust in a rematch? I somewhat feel like it's probably going to go into the same direction with the same outcome. And I do think, however, it's good for the light heavyweight division. Seeing that Alex beat Yuri, beat Jamal, beat Khalil Roundtree, there wasn't a lot of guys that was basically, asserting themselves as being a number one contender, where it felt like it was Alex and Magomed Ankalaev, and it felt like the rest of the division there was a somewhat a massive discrepancy. Now you can probably put Yuri in as well on that tier with Alex and Magomed. However, we saw what Alex did to Yuri twice, and it feels like Alex, Magomed Ankalaev, the rest of the division. Now, with regards to Magomed being the light heavyweight champion, maybe a potential fight against Yuri Prochazka would be really interesting. Maybe a potential fight against Jamal Hill would be really interesting, seeing that they probably have better wrestling. So we will see it play out majority of the fight on the feet. That's just some room for thought. Anyway, with regards to the rest of the card, I thought the prelims was good. Saw daylight robbery in the Francis Marshall fight. Now I can say that because actually I predicted that Santos would win, and I was never been so right and wrong in the same breath. Where obviously I was right because the official decision, Santos won. Wrong due to the fact that there is no way that you could have scored that fight for Santos. He could have lost all 3 rounds, and by some miracle he ended up winning 2 of them. It is insane. But we saw good fights in the prelims, saw entertaining fights in the prelims, especially at the start of the prelims. Even Bruno Ferreira, Arman Petrosian was a really good fight. We saw obviously the point deduction, thought that it would have a massive impact on the fight. It didn't. Seeing that Bruno Ferreira got his victory in the end, and then seeing the first time inside of the UFC where we actually see guys that are born after or in 2000 fight one another. The millennial generation. Yeah, tongue twister. Saw that take place. So felt like the prelims was good, and then heading into the main card, just to start it off in the best possible way. No disrespect to King Louis V Green, getting knocked out with one of the purest spinning wheel kicks ever seen, with Mauricio Ruffy knocking him out, Bobby falling face down on the canvas, and then looked like a little bit of a snail where his knees somewhat pushed his head forward. Interesting watch, devastating watch, but credit to Mauricio Ruffy, the guy is exceptionally technical. And you can see the comparisons with regards to Ruffy and Conor. Now it might be premature, but the guy is a superior striker within the lightweight division. Whatever they're doing to the lightweight division, with the influx of men that are absolute donnies with regards to the lightweight division, can we have that in the welterweight division as well? Can we maybe have an influx of absolute monsters in the welterweight division as well? Seeing that it's probably the division with the least amount of eyes right now, where you basically have Bilal, Shafkat, JDM, That's it. Can we maybe get some dominant figures in the welterweight division? Because in the lightweight division, just recently, Bahamondes, we had Ruffy, we had Esteban Ribovic, we even had Gene Silva, seeing that he's predominantly a featherweight, fought Drew Dober at lightweight, and please stop Drew, even though I'm a massive Drew fan. A massive influx in probably what is the most competitive division in the UFC. Can we have that at welterweight as well? Please. Would appreciate that. For some reason, picking the most competitive division in the UFC to be a part of, it's insane. It is insane. But then, moving on, with regards to the main card, UFC 313, Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Thought Lemos was going to win due to the fact that usually when a woman inside of the UFC is someone inexperienced, whenever we see said woman take on someone that is as good of a striker as Amanda Lemos is, with regards to the women's division, with regards to the strawweight division, they tend to freeze up. They haven't seen this speed before. They haven't felt this power before. They haven't seen this timing before. It is insane. Amanda Lemos is probably one of the most sophisticated strikers in the world. In the world of women's mixed martial arts. So I predicted that it was going to happen. Felt like it wouldn't be as good of a fight to actually be in that sport. However, it happened. Amanda Lemos came up trumps and went on to win the fight. And then in the third fight of the main card, Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Thought Turner would win. However, if anyone told me that he ended up losing the fight, I would probably say that either he got submitted or he got ground and pounded. Because glaring weakness for Jalen Turner is definitely wrestling and the aftermath of what happens whenever he gets taken down. So, saw Ignacio Bahamondes win via submission, via triangle, and it was a good fight. Warranted him performance of the night bonus from Dana White. I think Ignacio Bahamondes is a really good prospect with regards to the lightweight division. Him and Ruffy would be insane. Do not think that the UFC would actually make it, because they like to keep their young stars away from one another and have them fight later on. They wouldn't schedule them this early in their careers. So basically have Ruffy fight someone in the rankings, have Bahamondes fight someone in the rankings, preferably low within the rankings, like at number 13 or 14. I haven't looked at the rankings yet. However, I do think that would be the way forward. Then co-main event, to the surprise of absolutely no one, fight of the night, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. It is insane. Now I picked Gaethje to win the fight. Ended up coming to fruition due to the fact that felt like it would be insane for Rafael to actually come off a 1.5 year layoff due to the fact that he tore his ACL, fight Justin Gaethje, beat Gaethje. Didn't see that happening. Didn't see that being likely. However, definitely could have happened, but felt like Gaethje would probably win the fight. If maybe Rafael had this same fight against Justin Gaethje from 5-6 years ago, different story. However, this Justin Gaethje, he is insane. Once again showcasing how he adapts within the fight. And also should be a testament to how insane Trevor Whitman is as a coach. It is incredible. The guy just sees things differently, and the way that he is able to relay that information, relay adjustments to Justin Gaethje. Justin goes out and does whatever Whitman requires of him. It is top notch. Seeing that Rafael Fiziev won the first round, ended up taking Justin down, and then in the second, third round rather, we saw somewhat of what happened in the first fight as well, where Justin basically dominated the second, third round to go on and win the fight. Ended up knocking Fiziev down with a hellacious uppercut. It was insane. And then Fiziev having the fortitude to withstand, be durable in that moment, and basically weather the storm, get back to his feet. The fight playing out the way it did, it was insane. Would be interesting to know what would be next for Justin Gaethje. Obviously, with regards to Fiziev, just stay active. The man is an absolute donny. Whoever he fights would be tuning in. Fiziev, the answer would be to stay active. With regards to Justin Gaethje, how far is he removed from fighting Islam Makhachev for the title? Due to the fact that we have Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Arman, we have Ilya in the lightweight division, as I previously mentioned, the most dense division within the UFC. How far removed is Justin Gaethje from actually fighting Islam? Due to the fact that Gaethje is the only person within, obviously, an Ilya, but within the rankings that is yet to face Islam. Seeing that we saw Islam versus Arman, we've seen Islam versus Charles Oliveira, saw Islam versus Dustin. Would definitely be interesting seeing Islam versus Gaethje. And this new version of Gaethje, I think it would be really interesting. The Max Holloway fight isn't really a fair reflection of who Justin Gaethje is. He got his nose broken in the very first round, and it was somewhat unlucky. Now, sure, we could talk about being unfortunate or fortunate within the Gaethje Max Holloway fight, but having your nose broken in the very first round, it's tough. It's tough. There's no way that you would be the same for the duration of the fight, for the second all the way through to the fifth round. So genuinely feel like it wasn't a fair reflection of Justin's skill set and how much he is evolved as a fighter. Seeing him against Islam Makhachev, if he is able to basically withstand Islam's wrestling, resist Islam's pressure, it would be insane. Islam would definitely not press the way he does whenever he fought Charles or whenever he fought Moicano, because if Gaethje catches you flush, you lose. Simple as that. Way more precaution has to be taken when facing Justin Gaethje. Now, sure, Islam would be able to devise a plan on how he would enter whenever he fights Gaethje, enter and basically have Gaethje either on the ground or against the fence. Having Khabib train Islam, they would obviously be able to devise a plan, but do think it won't be as easy, especially with Gaethje's leg kicks. It might be interesting. And then obviously we saw what we saw in the main event of the UFC 313 card. And all in all, didn't think it was a bad card. I do, however, feel like the main event was underwhelming, but it happens. Felt like Alex had to capitalize whenever the fight played out on the feet, because at any moment the possibility was there for Ankalaev to actually take him down. So whenever the fight did play out in the way that Alex would preferably have it play out, he had to press and had to put the pressure on Ankalaev. You move forward, fight off the front foot, because it felt safe from Alex's point of view, and also felt safe from Ankalaev's point of view. But I mean, Ankalaev has the benefit of being a more well-rounded fighter, where Alex flourishes in one aspect of mixed martial arts. So whenever that aspect is basically happening, or whenever that aspect takes place, you have to assume that Alex would press and try and dominate as much as possible, given that at any point it could switch and Magomed Ankalaev could basically initiate and grappling exchanges, the way we saw it happen in the fourth and fifth round. So all in all, I'm somewhat excited to see what Magomed Ankalaev's title reign is going to look like. I think he has everything that he needs to be a champion for a long time, seeing that he's much more well-rounded than Alex. He has devastating power in his hands. We saw him drop Alex. We've seen Ankalaev deliver devastating knockouts. So he is not a boring fighter. Now sure, the way that he handled the Blachowicz fight, the way that he handled this Alex fight, who cares? We still have Belal inside of the UFC, and there's no way that you can claim that you are a sane person if you think that Magomed Ankalaev is more boring than Bilal Muhammad. You can't make that argument. So, all in all, felt like the main event was underwhelming. Felt like the card was good. I am extremely excited to see what Magomed Ankalaev's title reign is going to look like. Extremely excited for UFC 314. That card is basically as stacked as Ronnie Coleman was in 2000s. Excitement with regards to the UFC right now.